Stampers. My name is Linda Bettinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me this afternoon. Well, I'm in full panic mode as I speak to you with all of the things retiring from the annual catalog and the new catalog coming on in a month. And there's so many things that I just haven't had a chance to get to that I wish I had had some more time. So today I have a card for you, and I needed a Get Well card. So I have a card that says, sending well wishes your way, and it's using some of the Parisian Designer Series paper and some of the flowers from the Forever Blossoms. And it's a very pretty little card, pretty simple to do, and so let's just get started. Okay, here is my card, and it says sending well wishes your way, and it uses some of that pretty Parisian paper and some of the flowers from Forever Blossoms, and then the inside of the card is decorated, bringing some of the outside to the inside. And what I used to make this card is I used a piece of Very Vanilla 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And then this beautiful piece of paper from the Designer Series paper from the Parisian Suite. This piece of paper is cut 3 3/4 by 5. Then I have 2 pieces of cherry cobbler, and these 2 pieces of cherry cobbler are cut 4 by 5 1/4. Then I have a piece of white that is cut 3 3/4 by 5 for the inside. I have a strip that is 1 inch long by 5 inches. Then I have 2 circles, one cut from the Petal Pink cardstock that is 1 3/4 inches, and another piece cut from Cherry Cobbler that is 2 inches. And you don't have to use the punch. I just happen to have lots of punches just going down 1/4 inch. But even a couple of dies that would nest will be perfectly all right. It just needs to be about 1 3/4 inches long in order to fit this particular sentiment. You can do it smaller, you can do it larger, depending on the sentiment you choose to put on it. Then you need some scrap paper in Petal Pink, and I cut out a bunch of these little flowers. And let me show you from that stamp set that I used this leaf here, this leaf, and this little flower here. And so those are the 2 stamp sets I used to get this. And I cut out 3 or 4 of the white flowers and 3 or 4 of these Petal Pink flowers and several of the leaves, probably more than I need, but I like to have lots of resources available to me. So the very first thing we're going to do, it's a very, like I said, a pretty simple little card to put together, and it won't take us but a minute to get it done. So I'm going to take this Parisian paper that is cut 3 3/4 by 5, and I'm going to set it on one of my cherry cobbler pieces here. There we go. This one's looks like it's got a little bit larger border on it than that one does, doesn't it? Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so this piece is a strip that goes down flat on this piece of paper. I'll check the measurements and make sure they're listed below the video absolutely correctly. Okay, so this piece is going to come in about 3/4 of an inch, and this piece is, like I said, about an inch wide, and I just need it to go from top to bottom on my piece here. And the Eiffel Towers on this paper kind of go every which direction, so I don't know if there's kind of a right or a wrong, but since they go all directions, I don't think it matters. Then the other thing I'm using is this absolutely beautiful, and of course this is going to be retired as well, I'm pretty sure, the organdy striped ribbon in the petal pink here, and I just love this ribbon. I'm going to probably have to order an extra little bit of it just for myself for later. And this piece needs to go right across this piece of cardstock here. So I'll cut this and then measure it and tell you exactly how much I need. I needed, it looks like just a little under 8 inches, and I need one of a similar size for the inside, so I'll just go ahead and cut that now as well, right around 8 inches. Okay, and that might be a little long, but I'd rather have more than I need than not enough. All right, so we're going to do some stamping now, and let's see, all of my stamps are red rubber, so I don't need a cushion. And I'm using Cherry Cobbler ink, and I'm using Old Olive ink. Okay, so I have my stamps here, my stamps mounted, and I've got my Cherry Cobbler ink, and the first thing I'm going to do is stamp the inside piece of this card. So what I have is, and I need just a little piece of Post-it note to make like a little mask, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp 3 of these little flowers right down here in the corner in Cherry Cobbler. I'm going to make sure I've got that good and inked up. So I'm going to start with 1 flower in the corner, and then I'm going to just use this as a slim mask here to stamp another flower there as though it were behind it, and 1 down here out a ways, but again as though it were behind it. There we go. And very quickly there I have my 3 little flowers. Now I'm going to go ahead and let's see, I also need to stamp my sentiment here, so I think maybe I'll go ahead and do that while I have my Cherry Cobbler ink. And so the only thing I really have to do is make sure that I get this inside the circle. Circles are wonderful to stamp on because you can turn them any which way to get them to be straight. And there we have sending well wishes your way. Very nice. Now I'm going to let that dry for a second, and we'll put that on that piece there. All right, so next I'm going to switch to my Old Olive here, and I'm going to stamp a few leaves behind my flowers using that same little Post-it note. There we go. Kind of like that, so that I can get a couple of these leaves as though they're behind that flower. And I'm going to have this piece of ribbon and some other things on here, so that doesn't have to be exact. And so I'm going to also put some leaves as though they're kind of running back away from the flower on this side, and maybe 1 coming off of this end over here. And there we go. We've got some flowers on there and some leaves. Now then, we are going to go ahead and put this on our other piece of cherry cobbler. So I'm going to put some snail on the back of this piece and put it on my cherry cobbler. And you see I kind of double stamped this one trying to get a little piece in here. That's not going to make a difference, and I'll show you why. So the next thing I'm going to do is to put my ribbon across this piece, and for this I'm going to use my dot runner, and I'm going to get some snail on the back side of the ribbon, a little bit down the center and then the end, and that will allow me to help keep this in place. And it's nice because you can kind of see through it. See, that was 8 inches, so you really could go with 7, be perfectly fine. In fact, I'm going to add some more glue here to secure those in place, just to be absolutely sure that that stays down. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put this into place. Okay. And then I have the opportunity to add one more flower here. And so I'm just going to do that with glue because I don't want that standing up from the inside of the card. And I'm going to place it right here, and I'm going to take a leaf, one of these double leaves, and put it into place, partially blocking that little error that I made on stamping the other leaf up here. So if I put this in place and do it right in here, the stamping shows, the flower shows, the leaf shows, and my mistake does not. So there we go. That's the inside of this card done. Okay, so let's work on the front of our card. We have these pieces in place, and we need to put this additional ribbon across here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add some ribbon to the one side of this to get snail along the edges, some in the center to stay put, and then more along the edges. And we're going to set this ribbon down right down this piece of cherry cobbler, and then we're going to secure that ribbon around the back of the card. And there we go. And isn't that just pretty? All right, so this piece is going to be centered on the cherry cobbler. So we will go ahead and set this so that it's got a similar border all the way around. And then I'm going to add some dimensionals to this piece. I think 3 will do it. If you triangulate them, it'll stay pretty good. And we'll just add this piece sort of up here, a little above center, and a little off the ribbon to this side. There we go. Then I have these pieces done, and all I did, and I can show you, was there are dies that go with that Forever Blossoms that cut out the single leaves and the double leaves, and then on scrap, you can put your flowers down in the cherry cobbler and then just die cut those pieces out. Now this is the one on the piece of white, and I also set several of these down on a piece of petal pink to get these flowers here, and then just ran the dies through on my machine to get those pieces that I need, and then I had these pieces then there. Now we need one more small piece of our ribbon to make a little knot bow, so I'm just going to do that while it's attached to the spool here and make a little knot bow. Now on this piece, I think what I'm going to do, we're finished doing all of our stamping, so I'm going to set that aside. And I'm going to go ahead and add my snail before I make this any bumpier on the back. And then what I'm going to do is set it on my pierce mat, on my silicone mat, because the glue won't stick to anything that way, and I can peel it off and put it on my card and it'll be just fine. So on these, again, I added some dimensionals to the back of the flowers. Okay. Now these are going to be all ready to go for me to work on and try to get things positioned the way I want them. And sometimes what you want to do is not pull the release paper off of the dimensionals first so that you can sort of dry fit, but since I've got an example here of exactly what I want to do, I don't need to do that this time. So I'm going to start with a little white flower that we are going to add right up here to the top of my sentiment, underneath it, and just off the ribbon. Then I'm going to add a pink one, and I'm going to let that one go over the edge of the sentiment. Then my white one next, overlapping both the sentiment and the other flower. Then the last one, my pink one, just off my sentiment, but coming around this way. Now then, this piece can go right in here, and in fact maybe over and under. This one right underneath between those two flowers, and then one down here that's going to go inside, and you'll notice that this is offset a little bit, and that's by design because I'm going to take a glue dot here and put it on the knot of my bow and tuck it right down here so that it's between the flower and my sentiment. And that's feeling a little long on this side, so I'm going to slice that down a bit and set it right there. Now, if you're unhappy at all with how your ribbon is sitting, add an extra glue dot on it to hold it right where you want it. But I'm pretty happy with that. Let's see, rhinestones. All right. So what I was using, again, this is something that's retiring that makes me very sad because I just love them. These Noble Peacock rhinestones. I've used them on so many things, and this pink is absolutely perfect for this card. So I'm going to go ahead and add some rhinestones in the center of these flowers around my sentiment, and then one on the sentiment itself, and I used one that's a little bit larger and put it right here. Isn't that just pretty? Oh my gosh, I just love this card. Okay, so now I'm going to move these things out of the way, move my stamps out of the way, and we're ready to complete our card. Now this has got all of the glue already on it, and so if I just move all of those things out of the way, we should be able to just place this on our card front so that we have good margins. And there, I can set that in place, and there we have our completed card. Isn't that just pretty? Oh my gosh, I'm in love with this. And I'm going to try and do the next several videos that I do, and might throw in an extra one or two here, to try and use up some of the beautiful paper that we haven't had a chance to work with. In fact, I'm getting ready to do my May card class, online card class. It's a little late getting started, but I'll have all the kinks worked out here in another day or so, and I should have it up. So that is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd sure love to be your demonstrator, or you could join my team. Joining Stampin' Up! Is always a good deal, and we're getting ready for the launch of the new catalog. Some of you might start getting your catalogs probably this next week. Maybe by the end of this week or over the weekend. And there's some amazing and wonderful stuff, as always, in the new annual catalog. And look through that retiring list. I put copies or links to it on my blog. And there's a lot of stuff that is discounted that is retiring that is well worth perhaps getting your hands on. I do have another prize. If you will share the video, then I'm going to start doing grab bags, and they're guaranteed to have quite a bit of material in them. Anybody who's ever gotten from me knows that oftentimes you get more than I promise. And so I will have a drawing, and I'm just going to give grab bags for those of you that share the video, and I'll be sending out some packages soon. So thanks again for watching, and I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye!